The Rothschild family has long been recognized as one of the wealthiest dynasties in history. Yet, their legacy is shrouded in mysteries that seem as boundless as their fortune. Whispers of their involvement in elusive groups said to manipulate global economies and world affairs have circulated for generations, despite their consistent denials. Accusations of funding wars, orchestrating international conflicts, and even being linked to presidential assassinations have only added to the aura of intrigue. Are we truly protected from such a powerful lineage? Known as a dominant force in world finance, the Rothschild family's roots trace back to Frankfurt, Germany. Their rise to prominence began in the late 1700s, when Mayor Amschel Rothschild laid the foundation of what would become a vast banking network. During the 19th century, their influence stretched across Europe, with major establishments in cities such as London, Paris, Vienna, and Naples, positioning them among the most powerful families of the time. However, their reach extended beyond banking. Rumors of participation in covert organizations have persisted for years. One particularly enduring theory ties the Rothschilds to the Illuminati, a secretive group allegedly founded in 1776. The Illuminati is rumored to have pursued dominance over global affairs by infiltrating both governments and major corporations, a goal said to resonate with the vast influence of the Rothschild family. However, the Rothschilds' reach extends beyond these circles. They're often linked to the Freemasons, another clandestine group with deep historical roots, known for their mysterious ceremonies and prominent members, including influential politicians, business magnates, and even members of royalty. The Freemasons' connection to the Rothschilds has only fueled their reputation as behind-the-scenes power players. Throughout the 20th century, the Rothschild family's influence is believed to have expanded further. They were reportedly tied to the Dutch and British royal families, the Vatican, and the Rockefeller dynasty, suggesting the existence of a global power web that spans diverse institutions and continents. Perhaps most intriguingly, the Rothschild name is associated with the Bilderberg Group, a highly secretive organization established in 1954, which convenes yearly gatherings of some of the most powerful figures in the world. The Rothschild family's vast connections and long-standing ties to various covert organizations have frequently positioned them as potential participants in the Bilderberg Group. Their clout in areas such as finance, politics, and media appears to align closely with the group's purported objectives, sparking speculation about the magnitude of their influence. The Bilderberg Group itself has roots dating back to 1954, an era dominated by the tensions of the Cold War. Its inception is credited to Prince Bernhard of the Netherlands, who imagined a platform where prominent figures from Europe and North America could convene to encourage constructive dialogue and cooperation. The group's inaugural gathering was held at the Hotel de Bilderberg in Oosterbeek, Netherlands, which subsequently became the inspiration for its widely recognized name. The initiative aimed to bridge the gap between Europe and North America, fostering mutual understanding at a time when the threat of nuclear war loomed large. Participants at that first meeting included political elites, business leaders, and intellectual figures, each chosen for their significant sway and expertise. The underlying concept was to cultivate what came to be known as an aristocracy of purpose, a term reflecting the exclusive and ambitious nature of the group. From its earliest days, the Bilderberg Group maintained a strict policy of secrecy. Meetings were conducted behind closed doors, with the media barred from entry and no official summaries or statements ever made public. The veil of secrecy surrounding these meetings was intended to promote candid and unreserved conversations, shielded from public scrutiny. During the 1960s and 1970s, the group convened in locations such as Saltsjöbaden, Sweden, supported by the Wallenberg family, whose wealth was estimated at $10 billion. Similarly, the influential Rothschild family hosted numerous meetings across Europe. Prince Bernhard presided over these gatherings until 1976, stepping down in the wake of the Lockheed aircraft bribery scandal. The impact of these early conferences was immense. At a notable 1971 meeting in Woodstock, Virginia, discussions centered on the shifting global role of the United States. Soon after, Henry Kissinger traveled to China to establish trade relations, triggering an international monetary crisis and an 8.57% devaluation of the dollar. Those who had shifted their wealth to European currencies greatly profited. In 1976, the group brought together 15 Soviet representatives in the Arizona desert, during which it's believed they laid the groundwork for the eventual dissolution of Soviet communism. By 1978, the group foresaw a looming global economic crisis and the collapse of the US dollar. Their proposed remedy involved the establishment of a global banker system, a universal currency designed to be recognized and utilized worldwide. These preliminary discussions played a crucial role in shaping the Bilderberg Group's enduring impact on international policy. Decisions and debates emerging from these secretive meetings have had wide-ranging effects on global trade and the geopolitical order. The group's sway over public policy and historical developments is both significant and disconcerting. A notable example lies in the goal's 2,000 Inches program, devised during George H.W. Bush's presidency. Originating from a 1970 conference in Bad Regas, Switzerland, this initiative aimed to reform the U.S. education system. Its objective was to pivot the focus from American national interests to fostering a sense of global citizenship, essentially instilling the idea of an interconnected global identity in children. In 1990, at a meeting in Glen Cove, Long Island, the group reached a consensus that taxes should be increased to address debts owed to international financiers. This decision triggered one of the most substantial tax hikes in U.S. history, enacted by President George H.W. Bush, despite his earlier campaign promise to avoid imposing new taxes. This decision played a pivotal role in his loss during the following election. The organization's sway was further demonstrated at their 1991 gathering in Baden-Baden, Germany. There, they deliberated on the creation of a unified European currency and a centralized banking system, while also evaluating the situation in the Middle East and changes occurring within the Soviet Union. A prominent member, David Rockefeller, acknowledged major outlets like the Washington Post and the New York Times for honoring their commitment to confidentiality. He remarked that bringing their global plans to fruition would have been impossible if they had been exposed to intense public scrutiny over the years. The Bilderberg Group's influence on shaping policies and historical developments cannot be overstated. Their closed-door meetings have directed the trajectory of international politics, economics, and education, often out of the public eye. The power they wield to shape such consequential matters highlights their immense authority. A central element of their strategy revolves around NATO, which they consider an essential tool for upholding global order and advancing the group's agenda. By harnessing NATO's military strength, the Bilderberg Group seeks to establish a noble alliance with a unified purpose to effectively oversee global matters. This vision entails more than just collaboration in politics and defense. It also extends to fostering economic unification and managing vital resources. Among their ambitions is the formation of a centralized banking system to oversee a worldwide currency. This concept aligns closely with the perspective attributed to the Rothschild family, who famously declared, "Grant me control over a nation's finances, and it matters not who crafts its laws." The Bilderberg Group holds the belief that dominating global monetary systems grants them considerable leverage over international economies and governance. A significant procedural aspect of their meetings is the Chatham House Rule, which permits attendees to use the shared information, provided they do not disclose the identities or associations of the speakers. This framework encourages candid discussions, as participants can speak openly without fear of exposure or attribution. On the flip side, this veil of confidentiality leaves the public largely uninformed about the topics and decisions made during these gatherings. The mysterious nature of the Bilderberg meetings has fueled a host of conspiracy theories and speculations regarding the group's ultimate goals. There are those who argue that the Bilderberg Group is steering a concealed global agenda, subtly influencing international events from the shadows. Conversely, some view its gatherings as essential venues for fostering dialogue and collaboration among the world's most powerful individuals. Regardless of individual opinions, the undeniable truth is the tremendous authority and sway the group holds. Their ability to consistently assemble a wide array of influential figures year after year underscores their pivotal influence on global decision-making. A further intriguing element is the Rothschild family's ties to the Rockefellers, another prominent family frequently associated with the Bilderberg Group. In 2012, these two dynasties announced a venture together in the field of wealth management. The Rothschilds' deep involvement in global finance offers additional evidence linking them to the Bilderberg Group, as they have been connected to the International Crisis Group. This organization, supported by figures such as George Soros, Rupert Murdoch, and financial giants like Goldman Sachs and J.P. Morgan, aligns in purpose with the Bilderberg Group's goals. Both appear to have a shared interest in influencing global policy and preserving international stability. The family has been associated with several notable media organizations, such as Reuters and the Associated Press. This connection to news outlets is said to align with the alleged objectives of the Bilderberg Group, which reportedly involve shaping public perspectives and steering global narratives. By exerting influence over prominent media platforms, the Rothschilds are purportedly able to safeguard and advance their global interests. Their reach is said to span the upper echelons of government and politics. For instance, George Soros, often described as a Rothschild affiliate, has engaged in various financial and political ventures that are believed to coincide with the goals of the Bilderberg Group. Soros provided funding for Cadre, a real estate company co-founded by Jared Kushner, who is linked to Blackstone, another organization reportedly tied to the Rothschilds. Common criticisms of the Bilderberg Group label it as a secretive and undemocratic organization allegedly working to influence global affairs for the benefit of an elite few. The notion that a select group of influential individuals meets privately to discuss and potentially dictate global policies is an unsettling one for many observers. This secrecy heightens concerns that the group may be advancing a covert agenda, often described as the New World Order. However, despite these provocative accusations, there is no substantiated evidence to confirm the Rothschilds' involvement with the Bilderberg Group or to suggest that the group itself harbors malevolent intentions. The Rothschild family has consistently refuted allegations of any ties to the Bilderberg Group, characterizing such claims as unfounded conspiracy theories. However, if the family were indeed connected to this elusive organization, it would imply that a select and influential minority wields excessive control over global affairs. Such centralization of authority could significantly influence areas ranging from economic strategies and political policies to the narratives shaped by the media. Nation builders. When discussing influence, the Rothschilds' reach has historically extended to the development of nations. The family saga traces back to the late 1700s with Mayer Amschel Rothschild, a Jewish banker based in Frankfurt. Mayer's 5 sons established banking empires in key European cities, including London, Paris, Vienna, Naples, and Frankfurt, forming a robust network of financial institutions. This system of interlinked banks allowed the family to accumulate extraordinary wealth and exert substantial influence, paving their path to shaping significant global events. By the late 19th century, Baron Edmond de Rothschild, representing the French branch of the family, became an instrumental figure in the Zionist movement. This movement, spearheaded by Theodor Herzl, sought to create a Jewish homeland in Palestine. Edmund demonstrated both fervent dedication and considerable financial backing for this endeavor. Starting in 1882, he began investing in the development of Jewish settlements within Palestine. He supported the creation of agricultural communities, including Rishon LeZion, Zikron Yaakov, and Rosh Pinah. These pioneering settlements played a vital role in establishing the foundation for what would later become the nation of Israel. Beyond monetary aid, Edmund offered guidance in agriculture and industry, ensuring these communities thrived and remained sustainable. The influence of his family reached a pivotal juncture during World War I. In 1917, the British government issued the Balfour Declaration, which voiced support for establishing a Jewish national home in Palestine. The Zionist movement, which sought to create this homeland, gained momentum following Theodor Herzl's 1896 publication of the Jewish State. The movement resonated with Jewish communities across Europe who were grappling with widespread anti-Semitism. At the same time, the British Empire was closely monitoring Palestine due to its strategic importance. The area's position was vital for upholding British dominance in the Middle East. By the early 1900s, geopolitical pressures were escalating. The Ottoman Empire, which governed Palestine, was in decline, and Britain identified a chance to expand its reach. Additionally, many evangelical Christians in Britain supported the notion of Jewish people returning to their ancestral homeland, viewing it as a fulfillment of biblical prophecy. This blend of political ambition and religious ideology paved the way for a significant turning point. Enter Chaim Weizmann, a devoted Zionist figure who relentlessly campaigned among British leaders, including Arthur Balfour and members of the prominent Rothschild family. The Rothschilds, particularly Charles and Walter, played a pivotal role in championing Zionism. Their influence and extensive networks were instrumental in persuading the British government to seriously entertain the Zionist agenda. During the ongoing turmoil of World War I, Prime Minister Lloyd George and the British War Cabinet found themselves facing a precarious situation. Desperate for alliances, they identified the Zionist movement as a potential strategic advantage. Early in 1917, initial deliberations regarding the establishment of a Jewish homeland in Palestine began to emerge. Unbeknownst to the Zionists, however, was the existence of the covert Sykes-Picot Agreement, which clandestinely allocated control of the Middle East between Britain and France. By the middle of 1917, in-depth discussions were underway within the British government on how to gain Zionist backing. The matter carried significant weight, and the wording of the declaration was poised for intense examination. Behind closed doors, Lionel Walter Rothschild, the second Baron Rothschild, played an instrumental part in advancing the declaration. As a trusted associate of Arthur Balfour, the British Foreign Secretary, he leveraged his influence to champion Zionist aspirations. Chaim Weizmann and Lord Rothschild presented a preliminary draft of the declaration to the British War Cabinet, which underwent numerous revisions, shaped by the contributions of prominent figures such as Lord Milner and Leo Amory. The language of the document was deliberately designed to strike a balance between endorsing a Jewish national home and ensuring it did not alienate the non-Jewish population in Palestine. Prime Minister Lloyd George, along with Foreign Secretary Arthur Balfour and the British War Cabinet, understood the geopolitical stakes involved. Their aim was to secure the backing of Jewish communities worldwide, particularly in influential nations like the United States and Russia. President Woodrow Wilson of the United States, who held a favorable view of the Zionist cause, was deemed a pivotal figure whose endorsement was invaluable. By June and July 1917, the decision to draft a proclamation in support of Zionism was solidified. Careful deliberation and revisions followed as the British cabinet worked to address varying concerns. The phrase national home was strategically selected instead of state to sidestep opposition and to avoid a direct commitment to establishing a Jewish state. On October 31, 1917, the British War Cabinet gave its approval to the finalized version of the document. This was a significant and intricate decision shaped by political, strategic, and humanitarian factors. The declaration was then entrusted to Lord Rothschild, acting as the representative of the Zionist Federation of Great Britain and Ireland. On November 2, 1917, the Balfour Declaration was formally announced. Within its contents, the British government expressed support for the creation of a national homeland for the Jewish people in Palestine, committing to using its utmost efforts to advance this goal. Yet, the statement also included a provision to ensure the civil and religious rights of non-Jewish communities residing in Palestine were upheld. 1 week following its release, the declaration appeared in the Earth Press, coinciding with Britain's military conquest of Palestine and the revelation of the once-secret Sykes-Picot Agreement. This development left the world in shock. To Zionists, it marked a landmark victory in their pursuit of a Jewish homeland, while Palestinian Arabs considered it a profound betrayal. The Balfour Declaration represented a pivotal moment for the Zionist movement, with the Rothschild family playing an instrumental role. Their financial backing, influential political ties, and steadfast commitment to the Jewish homeland's establishment provided the foundation for what would eventually become the State of Israel. By the mid-20th century, the Rothschilds' involvement had reached its peak, as they offered significant support to the fledgling state during its formative stages, aiding in the realization of a long-held dream of a Jewish homeland. In 1948, the creation of the State of Israel became a reality. The Rothschild family played a pivotal role in this monumental achievement. Their unwavering commitment to the Zionist movement, along with their financial backing and political clout, was instrumental in turning the vision of a Jewish homeland into a tangible outcome. By leveraging their vast network and considerable resources, the Rothschilds offered key support and stability to the nascent state. Similarly, the Rothschilds were deeply involved in Brazil's journey to gaining independence from Portugal during the 19th century. At the start of the 1800s, Brazil was a vast territory under Portuguese control. The turmoil of the Napoleonic Wars disrupted Europe, compelling the Portuguese monarchy to seek refuge in Brazil and transforming Rio de Janeiro into the Portuguese Empire's new capital. This relocation became a critical precursor to Brazil's eventual independence. Meanwhile, across Europe, the Rothschild family was cementing their status as financial powerhouses, renowned for their extraordinary wealth and unmatched influence. Nathan Mayer Rothschild, at the helm of the London branch, wielded considerable influence, boasting ties to numerous royal households and governments. Early on, their financial ventures included financing wars, stabilizing national economies, and providing loans to monarchs, solidifying their stature as a dominant force in global finance. By 1822, Brazil's quest for independence had reached a pivotal juncture. Dom Pedro I, the Portuguese king's son, took a bold step by proclaiming Brazil's independence and declaring himself emperor. However, achieving this sovereignty came with a steep financial cost. Portugal demanded an enormous indemnity of £2 million as the price for formally acknowledging Brazil's independence, a sum that seemed unattainable for the emerging nation. Faced with this financial hurdle, the Brazilian government approached the Rothschilds for assistance. Recognizing a lucrative opportunity, Nathan Mayer Rothschild agreed to provide the necessary funds. Yet, this was far from an ordinary loan. The Rothschilds attached stipulations that granted them considerable influence over Brazil's financial system. Not only did they provide the funds for the indemnity, but they also took charge of managing Brazil's debt and guiding the country's financial strategies. This agreement marked a pivotal shift. With financial support from the Rothschilds, Brazil succeeded in repaying Portugal and solidifying its independence. However, their involvement went far beyond the initial loan. The Rothschilds essentially became the primary financiers of the Brazilian Empire, playing a vital role in crafting the nation's financial framework to ensure their investment delivered lasting profits. Once the indemnity was resolved, Brazil turned its focus toward building the foundations of its nation. The loan from the Rothschilds, in turn, gave them considerable authority over Brazil's financial policies. They directed funds into railroads, mining, and agriculture, profoundly shaping the country's economic direction. Their reach extended into infrastructure projects, linking the expansive nation via rail systems and harnessing its abundant natural resources. The financial ties between Brazil and the Rothschild family proved advantageous for both parties. Brazil benefited greatly from the Rothschilds' financial acumen and resources, which played a crucial role in stabilizing the nation's economy and promoting development. Meanwhile, the Rothschilds saw Brazil as a profitable avenue to broaden their international financial influence and accumulate greater wealth. Similarly, the Rothschilds financed Cecil Rhodes in establishing the African colony of Rhodesia. Born on July 5, 1853, in Bishop Stortford, England, Rhodes displayed an intense drive and curiosity from a very young age, traits that would shape his future endeavors. At 17, Rhodes traveled to South Africa to join his brother Herbert, who was cultivating cotton. However, Rhodes soon redirected his focus to the rapidly growing diamond industry in Kimberley. By 1871, he had claimed a stake in the diamond fields, and his sharp business instincts quickly distinguished him. He later established the De Beers Mining Company, which went on to dominate the global diamond trade. However, for Rhodes, diamonds were merely the starting point. He nurtured an audacious dream of extending British dominion throughout Africa, envisioning an empire that stretched from the Cape to Cairo. His aspirations weren't confined to mere accumulation of riches. They revolved around exerting political power and wielding influence. Rhodes firmly believed in the destiny of British supremacy and saw it as his duty to bring as many territories as possible under British rule. Achieving such an ambitious goal demanded vast resources, and Rhodes recognized the necessity of forming strategic alliances to turn his vision into reality. As his ambitions grew larger, so too did his reliance on substantial financial support. This is where the Rothschild family came into the picture. Known as one of the world's most prominent and affluent banking dynasties, their interest was piqued by Rhodes' grand schemes. Nathaniel, the first Baron Rothschild, particularly saw promise in Rhodes' endeavors, as the Rothschilds were renowned for identifying profitable opportunities. The prospect of a British-dominated Africa presented a remarkable chance for investment. During the 1880s, Cecil Rhodes presented Nathaniel Rothschild with a groundbreaking proposal that would significantly alter the trajectory of history. He suggested that the Rothschild family invest in his burgeoning diamond and gold mining operations in return for financial backing. Enticed by the prospects of immense profit and increased geopolitical clout, the Rothschilds agreed to finance Rhodes' ventures. Armed with this capital, Rhodes went on to establish the British South Africa Company in 1889. By securing a royal charter from Queen Victoria, the company was granted the authority to govern and develop lands in southern Africa. The Rothschilds' involvement extended beyond mere financial gains. It was also a strategic move to amplify their global influence and acquire critical resources. The partnership between Rhodes and the Rothschilds sparked profound consequences. Though they succeeded in amassing wealth and power, their pursuits left behind a troubling legacy of inequality and turmoil that continues to affect the region. The outcomes of Rhodes' colonization policies remain visible to this day. Zimbabwe and Zambia, the modern nations born from what was once Rhodesia, still confront challenges related to land redistribution, economic stability, social justice, and unresolved historical grievances. While the Rothschild family is renowned for its immense wealth and influence, they also harbor traditions and secrets that are not always embraced by the public. One unusual practice within the family is the strict expectation for Rothschild children to marry relatives in order to keep their wealth intact. This was more than a suggestion. It was an enforced rule. A notable early example of this custom was the union of Nathan Mayer Rothschild and his cousin, Hannah Baron Cohen. Nathan, the founder of the Rothschild banking branch in London, used this marriage to solidify his family's financial dominance in England. Similarly, in 1836, Lionel de Rothschild married his cousin Charlotte von Rothschild, further reinforcing this tradition. Lionel was Nathan Mayer Rothschild's son, while Charlotte was the daughter of Karl Mayer von Rothschild, who established the family's banking presence in Naples. This marriage strengthened the family's ties across Europe, ensuring their fortune and influence remained tightly controlled within their lineage. These early intermarriages laid the groundwork for future generations, creating a closely connected family network that wielded immense financial and social power throughout the continent. The Rothschilds' commitment to intermarriage stemmed from their desire to safeguard their tremendous wealth and preserve their sway over global affairs. Mayor Amschel Rothschild recognized that keeping marriages confined within the family line was an effective way to ensure their financial empire remained unified and firmly under their control. This approach went beyond mere monetary concerns, serving as a means to preserve power and influence across the European landscape. Over the years, however, the Rothschild family's marital customs have undergone significant transformation. While intermarriage once played a pivotal role in securing their wealth and social dominance, the family gradually shifted its practices to align with evolving societal norms and legal frameworks. A particularly noteworthy transition took place between the late 20th and early 21st centuries, as members of the Rothschild family began marrying outside their bloodline. This shift reflected a growing openness toward broader social connections and partnerships. Part of this trend stemmed from the realization that their empire, already well established, no longer relied on internal marriages for its continuity. For instance, in 1966, Sir Evelyn de Rothschild wed Victoria Luschad, an American unconnected to the Rothschild lineage. This marriage marked the beginning of a broader shift within the family, later exemplified in unions such as Kate Emma Rothschild's. In 2003, Kate, part of the English branch of the Rothschild dynasty, married Ben Goldsmith, a member of another affluent and prominent family, highlighting the family's embrace of changing times. The Rothschild family's evolving views on marriage have been shaped by shifts in women's roles within the family dynamic. Traditionally, Rothschild women were rarely considered as heirs unless they wed within the family, a practice designed to keep the family's wealth consolidated among male lineage. Over time, however, the family has adopted a more modern perspective, granting women greater involvement in both inheritance and the family business. A notable example is Ariane de Rothschild, the spouse of Benjamin de Rothschild, who has taken on a leading position within their enterprise. Serving as the CEO of the Edmund de Rothschild Group, she has played a crucial part in updating the family's banking strategies and broadening their international influence. With the family's growing fortune and prominence, there's also been a rise in conspiracy theories. One of the earliest allegations suggested that the Rothschilds were behind the funding of wars. Historical documentation confirms the family's financial involvement in various conflicts, including claims that link them to funding the Holocaust. This idea stems from deeply rooted anti-Semitic notions claiming that Jewish people control the world's financial systems, and the Rothschild family, as one of the most well-known Jewish dynasties, became an obvious target for these allegations. The conspiracy asserts that the Rothschilds financed the Holocaust, the brutal genocide carried out by the Nazi regime during World War II. Yet, this claim is completely baseless and unsupported by evidence. The Holocaust was a systematic and state-led campaign responsible for the persecution and murder of 6 million Jewish individuals by the Nazis and their allies. There is no proof to connect the Rothschilds to the funding or support of these atrocities. This conspiracy theory is a product of the enduring anti-Semitic sentiment that has afflicted Jewish populations for centuries. Owing to the Rothschilds' significant wealth and influence, they became convenient scapegoats for various global tragedies. In reality, the Rothschilds themselves were victims of Nazi oppression, with many family members forced to flee Europe to escape the Holocaust horrors. Another related conspiracy concerns the Rothschilds' supposed involvement in the assassinations of U.S. presidents, a baseless notion that has fascinated conspiracy theorists for years. One of the most notable claims centers around President Abraham Lincoln. There are those who suggest that the Rothschild family orchestrated his assassination, alleging it was due to his resistance to the establishment of a central bank, which they are rumored to have sought control over. Nonetheless, historical records attribute Lincoln's murder to John Wilkes Booth and his group of accomplices. Booth, a prominent actor and ardent supporter of the Confederacy, fatally shot Lincoln at Ford's Theater in Washington, D.C. on April 14, 1865. There is no reliable evidence connecting the Rothschilds to this devastating event. The notion that the Rothschilds were involved in Lincoln's assassination is an unsubstantiated conspiracy theory lacking factual support. Similarly, President John F. Kennedy is frequently tied to such speculative theories. Some assert that the Rothschilds had a hand in his death, supposedly due to his attempts to diminish the Federal Reserve's power, an institution they are often accused of controlling. However, the Warren Commission's official findings determined that Lee Harvey Oswald acted alone in killing Kennedy on November 22, 1963, in Dallas, Texas. As with Lincoln, there is no valid evidence linking the Rothschild family to Kennedy's assassination. Let's turn our attention to the Rothschild family, examining their present-day financial standing and influence. Historically recognized as a dominant financial force, the Rothschilds no longer wield the vast wealth and control often purported by conspiracy theories. The family's fortune began accumulating in the 18th century, and over time, the number of descendants has grown significantly. This expansion has dispersed their wealth, meaning there is no single unified fortune tied to the Rothschild name. Currently, the closest entity resembling a family enterprise is the Rothschild Group, an international investment banking organization. Yet, this firm's earnings fall far short of validating the exaggerated claims surrounding the family's financial power. As of 2015, the Rothschild Group reported annual revenue of roughly $500 million. For perspective, Walmart, the largest global company, boasts annual revenue approaching $500 billion. This substantial disparity underscores the inaccuracies and assertions that the Rothschilds control a significant portion of the world's wealth. Among the most persistent falsehoods is the claim that the family has a net worth of $500 trillion and owns 80% of global wealth. These claims are highly inflated. As of 2015, the total global wealth was valued at approximately $250 trillion, making it unrealistic for the Rothschild family to control such a substantial portion of it. Additionally, only one Rothschild, Benjamin Rothschild, appeared on Forbes' Billionaire list that year. He held the 1,121st spot with an estimated fortune of $1.61 billion. While this is undeniably a large sum, it is a far cry from the exaggerated narratives surrounding the family's alleged financial dominance. In truth, the Rothschilds no longer command the level of global influence they once had in earlier eras. Although they continue to be wealthy and hold some sway, their power is nowhere near as extensive as various conspiracy theories have claimed. That wraps up today's video. If you found it engaging and want to check out more similar content, feel free to click on any of the cards displayed on your screen.